Hello, and welcome out to another Player's Handbook 2024 video, this time looking at the 9 new spells that have been added to the game. Now, there might be more spells than 9, I'm pretty sure it's 9, I've gone through the book now, but reading this entire book and then quickly just going and pumping out loads of content might come with a thing where I might have missed over one, but I don't think I have. There are a lot of spells which have been updated, so much so that they feel like they're entirely new spells, but we covered those in the other videos. For now, these are 9 newly named spells entirely. So I'm going to put these in order of my least favorite to my favorite, but I will say this. Even my least favorite, I'm like, that's pretty good. So I'm excited by these, and I think you'll probably get a good kick out of them, and I'll save my favorite for last and describe why each one of them rocks. Each of the spells I'm going to be judging mechanically and thematically, and kind of also somewhere in between their role in the future of other spells and compare it to other spells as well. So it would kind of be judging both merits to combine to why something will come out my favorite. At number 9, we have Elementalism. Now, it reads, it's a transmutation cantrip for druids, sorcerers, and wizards. Casting time of 1 action, a range of 30 feet, vocal and somatic components, and it's instantaneous. You exert control over the elements, creating one of the following effects within range. Beckon air, you create a breeze strong enough to ripple cloth, stir dust, rustle leaves, and close open doors and shutters, all in a 5-foot cube. Doors and shutters being held open by someone or something aren't affected. Beckon earth, you create a thin shroud of dust or sand that covers surfaces in a 5-foot square area. Or you cause a single word to appear in your handwriting in a patch of dirt or sand. Beckon fire, you create a thin cloud of harmless embers and colored scented smoke in a 5-foot cube. You choose the color and scent, and the embers can light candles, torches, or lamps in the area. The smoke scent lingers for 1 minute. Beckon water, you create a spray of cool mist that lightly dampens creatures and objects in a 5-foot cube. Alternatively, you create 1 cup of clean water either in an open container or on a surface, and the water evaporates in 1 minute. Sculpt element, you cause dirt, sand, fire, smoke, mist, or water that can fit in a 1-foot cube to assume a crude shape, such as that of a creature for 1 hour. Now, the reason that this has made it into the 9th spot and is not my favorite of the new spells is mostly because a lot of these things already exist in similar spells like Prestidigitation, Thaumaturgy, and spells of the similar manner, which this is clearly one of those playful, heavy roleplay flavor spells. Now, I love roleplay flavor spells, and I think this one's one that I'll pick up on a lot of characters, especially druids and sorcerers, who I feel like it's super apt for. I just already feel like we have a lot of these things initially. I actually think my favorite portion of this is the sculpt element, because I love the idea of creating a scene and trying to build out a plan by sculpting up sand, smoke, fire, and everything. Pretty fun for setting a scene. But overall, I think the spell is solid. I just don't think mechanically it does anything super new. But it's a lot of fun flavor. At number 8, we have Jallarzi's Storm of Radiance. It's a level 5 evocation spell for warlocks and wizards. It's an action to cast, 120 feet of range. Components of vocal, somatic, and material, which is a pinch of phosphorus. Duration is concentration up to 1 minute. You unleash a storm of flashing light and raging thunder in a 10-foot radius, 40-foot high cylinder, centered on a point you can see within range. While in this area, creatures have the blinded and deafened conditions, and they can't cast spells with a verbal component. When the storm appears, each creature in it makes a con save, taking 2d10 radiant damage and 2d10 thunder damage on a failed save, half as much on a success. A creature also makes the save when it enters the spell's area for the first time on a turn, or ends its turn there. A creature makes the save only once per turn, and the radiant and thunder damage increase by 1d10 for each spell slot at a level above 5. Overall, thematically, I don't think this is a spell that was necessarily missing from the game. It's not something that fills in a niche, but I do think there's one portion of it that I really like, which is the can't cast spells with a verbal component when in this. It creates an almost silence with a lot of damage on there as well, which can be used for a lot of fun. It's also a great warlock spell, as they don't have much in the way of this, and it's a strong 5th level spell in general. In terms of its damage, 4d10 overall, both pretty decent damage types, Radiant and Thunder. Con save unfortunately makes it a lot weaker than it should be, but I feel like this is a pretty decent spell all round. I can see it getting picked up, but I don't think it fills any niche. If anything, I might have put this at number 9 and kept I can't talk. Elementalism. Shit. Honestly, I might even swap around this in Elementalism, because thinking about this in more, I do think this, now looking at it and thinking about the con save, Elementalism at least has a lot more flavor. At number 7, we have Arcane Vigor. Arcane Vigor is a level 2 abjuration spell for sorcerers and wizards. Cast in time of a bonus action, it's a range of self and vocal and somatic components. The duration is instantaneous. You tap into your life force to heal yourself, roll 1 or 2 of your unexpended hit dice, and regain a number of hit points equal to the roll's total, plus your spellcasting ability modifier. Those dice are then expended. The number of unexpended hit dice you can roll increases by 1 for each spell slot above 2. So, just off front, people have been asking for a heal on wizards and casters in general, so having it on a wizard and sorcerer is a really nice new heal. Especially because it's diving into your hit dice. There's a lot of mechanics in this 2024 book that use hit dice in general, so this will be something that you use sparingly or when you really do need that buff. But overall, I feel like it's a fun way to do it. I like the fact that you can do 1 or 2 straight off the bat, making it a viable way to get a decent heal. Both of these are going to be 1d6s plus your spellcasting ability modifier, so that's pretty nice as a baseline heal just to have on yourself. But ultimately, I don't think it's not going to make my top few spots because it doesn't really blow me out the water. It's just something that will be a pickup for most wizards and sorcerers as a backup. At number 6 is Power Word Fortify. It reads, level 7 enchantment, bard and cleric. It's an action. It's 60 feet, vocal components, duration instantaneous, and you fortify up to 6 creatures you can see within range. The spell bestows 120 temporary hit points, which you divide among the spell's recipients. I feel like this spell is thematically not that exciting at all, but mechanically very solid. It's getting that spot for me, number 6, because of just how mechanically useful that is. I think, by the time you hit to level 7, this is something that's stronger when you're with a smaller crew. But if you do have 6 people and you want to split it evenly, everyone getting 20 temporary HP is a pretty nice just upgrade buff for everyone. But if you decide just to put this onto one person, you can as well. Throw this onto one tank. So I do like there's a bit of variety there. Thematically, not super exciting, but of course, mechanically, a very, very useful spell that I think will get a lot of use in the late gameplay. Coming in at number 5 is Starry Wisp. Now, Starry Wisp is a new evocation cantrip for bards and druids, who don't get as many of these kind of bursting cantrips. Casting time is an action. The range is 60 feet. It's vocal and somatic, instantaneous. You launch a mote of light at one creature or object within range. Make a ranged spell attack against the target, and on a hit, the target takes 1d8 radiant damage, and until the end of your next turn, emits dim light in a 10-foot radius and can't benefit from the invisible condition. The spell increases by 1d8 when you reach levels 5, 11, and 17, all the way up to 4d8 damage. So, this is, I'm a sucker for a cantrip. I love when new cantrips are introduced because it's something that every single player gets to experience when they play a caster. Late game spells, a lot of people don't ever get to experience them, or they don't get to experience them to their full extent. This is something that stays with you the entire game. So it has to be fundamental, has to be useful, it has to fit a niche. And I think finding a cantrip that fits a niche after having so many already is a really difficult thing to do. And I think this definitely does. Radiant damage is a useful evocation base of damage. It is nice to have an on-hit ability for both bards and druids as a choice. And on top of that, the effect is extremely useful in so many scenarios. Just actually lighting up the opponent is going to make them impossible to hide, and getting rid of the invisible condition, which, by the way, is the condition name for any hiding creature as well. It doesn't just refer to when you go actually invisible, but when you do the hide action as well, you go invisible via that. It's just a nice way to guarantee that your enemy is going to stay directly in line where people can see them, and gives it a little bit of flavor. I think it's just a simplistic, nice niche to fill. At number 4 for me is Fount of Moonlight. This is a level 4 evocation spell for bards and druids again. Casting time is an action, and it's a range of self, vocal, somatic, concentration up to 10 minutes. A cool light wreaths your body for the duration, emitting bright light in a 20-foot radius and dim light for an additional 20 feet. Until the spell ends, you have resistance to radiant damage, and your melee attacks do an extra 2d6 radiant damage on a hit. In addition, immediately when you take damage from a creature you can see within 60 feet, you can take a reaction to force the creature to make a Constitution saving throw, and on a failed save, they have the blinding condition until the end of your next turn. The reason I really like this spell is thematically it's built into druids for the Moon Druid, which I think it's going to be really strong on. But I think just in terms of flavor, in terms of that Moonbeam similar style of spell, I just really like the bright light emitting from you. Resistance to Radiant is not a damage you often come across, but for those times where it does, that's nice to have on top of there. But just the 2d6 extra Radiant damage as you go. It is really, really tasty. A reaction based to force them to be blind. The best thing about this is they blind to the end of your next turn, so you're going to have some great ways to get away from the enemy or get some advantages against them during your next turn as well. So that's quite nice. It's also good because it's a ranged base reaction, so it's almost like a blinding hellish rebuke. The only issue I have with this, and the reason it doesn't go up higher, is that you can't upcast it. I feel like upcasting it to give you additional damage on the radiant hits would have been an easy thing to do. We've got other spells that do even more damage, which are based on each hit as well, and unfortunately this one doesn't upcast. I wish they had found a way just to throw in an upcast. I think without it, it might not get as much use as it deserves. Now for the top 3, which are my definite favorites. At number 3, we have Yolande's Regal Presence. It's a level 5 enchantment spell for bards and wizards. It's a casting type of an action, and it's got a range of self, with vocal, somatic, and material components, which is a miniature tiara. Very fitting. Duration is a concentration up to 1 minute. You surround yourself with unearthly majesty in a 10-foot emanation. Whenever the emanation enters the space of a creature you can see, and whenever a creature you can see enters the emanation or ends its turn there, you can force that creature to make a wisdom saving throw. On a failed save, the target takes 4d6 psychic damage and has the prone condition. And you can push it up to 10 feet away. On a successful save, the target takes half as much damage only. A creature makes the save only once per turn. Thematically, this is my favorite one across the board. I love the concept of it being a tiara, being this idea that your just general majesty in general is forcing these creatures to have to genuinely take a knee. You are, as the name says, you have such a powerful regal presence that you're actually causing them to take psychic damage from just your visage. I love that as a theme. And mechanically, decent amount of damage, not amazing for a level 5 spell, but it's an okay amount. Psychic damage is not that resisted, and prone condition is always powerful, and you can push it up to 10 feet away alongside it having prone. So you can push them away, don't take the attack opportunity, and give your melee friends a chance to dive in and smash face. You do the half damage on a success, which is always good, but ultimately, the fact that this keeps popping off once per turn, and you can almost follow them and keep just sending them back, reeling from you, super thematic. I think this is going to be a must pick up, especially on bards. At number 2 is Sorcerous Burst. It's an evocation cantrip for sorcerers only, which I love. Casting time is an action, it's a range of 120 feet, and it takes vocal and somatic components and is instantaneous. You cast Sorcerous Energy at one creature or object within range, make a ranged spell attack against the target. On a hit, the target takes 1d8 damage of a type you choose, Acid, Cold, Fire, Lightning, Poison, Psychic, or Thunder, and if you roll an 8 on a d8 for the spell, you roll another d8 and add it to the damage. When you cast a spell, the maximum number of d8s you can add to the spell's damage equals your spellcasting ability modifier. It goes up by 1d8 whenever you reach levels 5, 11, and 17. I love this. It is probably one of my favorite burst cantrips in the game now. Take a lot of the other cantrips which are 1d10 in damage. I'd rather cast this one because of the variety of damage choices you have and just the opportunity to see those exploding dice. The opportunity to see yourself getting a bunch of die rolls. In my games, we usually roll for our stats, so having the opportunity to have 5 more rolls of this d8 is going to explode the damage on these dice. And the cool thing is, the thing I love about that is you're only going to have greater chances of rolling those 8s as you get higher upgrades in this cantrip. I love that. It's super fun. It's super powerful. It feels very sorcerer, this kind of innate burst of energy that is unpredictable. And I think this is going to be something which is the sorcerer version of an Eldritch Blast, where everyone looks at them with a little bit of envy. And finally, at my top spot, my favorite of the new spells coming into the Player's Handbook is Tasha's Bubbling Cauldron. It's a level 6 conjuration spell for warlocks and wizards. It's an action to cast, 5 feet of range, vocal somatic material, and a gilded ladle worth 500 gold is what it takes for the material. 10 minutes of duration, you conjure a claw-footed cauldron filled with bubbling liquid. The cauldron appears in an unoccupied space on the ground within 5 feet of you and lasts for the duration. It can't be moved and disappears when the spell ends along with the bubbling liquid inside of it. The liquid in the cauldron duplicates the properties of a common or uncommon potion of your choice, such as a potion of healing. As a bonus action, you or an ally can reach into the cauldron and withdraw one potion of that kind. The potion is then consumed. The cauldron can produce a number of these potions equal to your spellcasting ability modifier with a minimum of 1, and when the last of these potions is withdrawn from the cauldron, it disappears and the spell ends. Potions obtained from the cauldron that aren't consumed disappear when you finish this spell, when you cast this spell again. This is amazing. Everything about this is great. I adore this spell, and I think it is, for me, a must pick at every single table. It's awesome. Having access, if they just made this potions of healing, I still think it would have been good. The fact that it says common or uncommon, just on the baseline of all the potions that are out there as written, that is so much variety. It's so much preparation. You're going into certain fights and you just have the options to grab various potions that might help you in different areas of a fight coming up, right? You can pre-prep a fight based on this. It's like an alternative to Hero's Feast in the regards to let's do something big and build up. Here's another thing though. It's not consumed the Gilded Ladle. So that 500 gold, this is free potion casting once you hit this level, as long as you get your Gilded Ladle. It's really thematic. It's very witch-like, which is super fun. And the potions don't disappear when you finish a long rest. They just disappear when you do the spell again. You can hold on to these potions until you use them. That means you could just have this prepared one day, cast the spells, unprepare it as a wizard, hold on to the potions for a while, and then finally get around to casting them. Let me just look up a list of potions which could potentially be used. So on D&D Beyond alone, there are 20 different potions that fit into the uncommon or common category. This doesn't even include all the potions your DM might make or other potions you might think of and make during the time you have in your campaign. You've got Potion of Animal Friendship if you need it, a Potion of Advantage, a Filter of Love. You've got yourself Potions of Growth if you want to have the Enlarge spell, Potion of Fire Breath, Comprehension, Climbing. We've got Potions of Resistance, Water Breathing. It is fantastic. It gives you so much variety, and that's just the potions that exist already on D&D Beyond. So those are the new 9 spells coming to the Player's Handbook 2024. Overall, I don't think there's a single bad spell among them, and especially my first top 6, I think are fundamentally great and will see a lot of use in play. I love seeing new spells added to the books, and each one of these will find its use at many tables. So overall, really happy with these new spells coming in. Can't wait to cast the Bubbling Cauldron one, and the Sorceress one really makes me want to play a Sorcerer. But overall, I am a big fan of it. If you enjoyed this video, we are releasing more videos on this channel for all different spells and new features coming out in the handbook and other books for the future. So please go ahead and like and subscribe, and hopefully catch us on the next one. Thanks so much for watching. Take care.